feel to show that okay, these people are actually into digital agency, right? You're able to create that feel, which is what design is all about, because design, it's a communication tool, right? So we create things that we use in communicating with different people. So now this is your work and you've done perfectly well with it. You understand? So it makes so much sense. So we're going to be, growing in this trend just like this. So, but as you're growing, you need to now watch out for, you need to try to be a more perfection kind of person. Like, try to pay more attention to detail. You don't need to make it bold. I believe you can see my screen. So if I click on this guy now, let me zoom out so you see what happens there. If I click on this now, I already changed it to medium. But if I change it to semi-bold, which is where it was before, it makes it look this strong in the eye. You understand? It now looks as if he's struggling, because he's just too bold. So usually body text, always keep it at regular or medium. By so it makes the body text to be easily readable. Then you already have your show project here. Your show project can equally be bold. And generally when you look at this, it creates these layout blocks, imaginary layout blocks. Now design, every design you see is built on layout blocks. Now what do I mean by layout blocks? So for instance, let me just draw a box around this to probably show you how your own design is built. Now this is a layout block, if you will agree with me. Now this as well is a layout block. Are you with me? Are you following? Are you seeing what I'm doing? Now this is a layout block. Now this I think I should just keep it here. It's a layout block. So now this is the layout block of your design. I think I can actually put this here. Now this is layout block of your design. So every single design has this layout block. Now as a creative person and as a designer, whenever you see designs that you like, right, designs that inspire you, watch out for the layout blocks. You need to be able to create this imaginary feel, this imaginary visualization of the layout block that particular design was developed on. And trust me, the more you consume more visualizations of layout blocks, the more your design skill gets better. Again, so I think that was just a pro tip that I had to give to you. So just delete all this so I don't just mess up your work. And then we jump into what we're going to do for today. Then there is something I asked you to do in this your assignment that you did not do. I told you that every button should be a component, right? But this your button now, you didn't make it a component, you just placed it inside a group. You understand? So but let me just assume probably you didn't just understand the full concept of components and how it works. So in today's class we're going to continue from components, and then I'll just try to show you how components works, layer styles in Figma, and then you know how far you can go from there. So for instance, now there is in today's class I'll be doing introduction to prototyping in Figma for you. I'll be doing introduction to prototyping because I want to talk about interactive components. So for me to talk about interactive components, I have to try out prototyping. So now this is your button, right? So first of all, I described, please help me unmute your mic please. So first of all, I defined components as a feature in Figma that enables us make that enables us create variants or instances of the same object. What I mean by variants or instances of the same object is like they enable us create duplicates, and we can actually control those duplicates from the mother component. So you explain something like that. Now this is your main component here, this is your button, so I usually can just bring it down here, so we already have this as our main button. Now I'm going to show you how you can use components and component set to create different button systems. But let's just move on gradually. So I said this particular button, right, is the main button, right? So now if I create a component out of this button by right clicking and then I hit on create component, this becomes a component. How did you know it's a component? When you look at the layers panel, you see that the buttons have changed to diamond button, and then Figma is making it blue to tell you that this has a special feature. Now the moment I duplicate this guy, now this becomes a child component of this mother component. That this particular guy is a child component. How did you know it's a child component? When you take a look at your layers panel, you will see that it only has one diamond around it. Now if I come to this my Figma file, or this my design, and I place this child component here, actually nobody will actually know what's going on. But most times when you study people's Figma file, especially people that did a comprehensive work and they arranged it, you'll always see something like main UI. You can create different pages here. Like here now, you already have one page, right? So I can create, if I click on this icon now, this place you're seeing page 1, you see this plus icon, and I can create another page called page 2. This is where we are going to be building our systems. Follow me closely. This is where we are going to be building our systems and components. Now here, this page 1 now, I can now call it main UI. So this is where you will see my main UI. Now for instance, let's assume that we've had a very in-depth understanding of how components and interactive components work. It simply means that this component, which is my mother component, I'll have to cut it. I'm cutting it, press Ctrl X, and then I'll come here and I'll paste. So this is where I'll be doing my components work. So this is where I make major changes with my component. Now this is just me trying to keep my workspace arranged. Now some persons who know it doesn't matter, you can just be doing every single thing on this page, you understand, which of course I think that's how a lot of persons do it. They do every single thing on that particular page, and then after, when they are done with their work, they can now try to keep their workspace neat. Then they create pages and then paste some other items there. So I'm just showing you that, and then I'm equally introducing the create new pages feature to you, so you know that it's there in Figma. So now I didn't spell this component well. Space, delete one O, and that's good. So now if I click on this, if I change this color to probably, let me not try white. Let's just make it a darker, or let's make it a lighter color like this. If you come, that's on the mother component. Once you come to the child component, you see that change has been implemented. So if I have these particular buttons pasted on different pages, of my work, let's say you already have like 10 of these pages designed, and probably the client you're working for, said he needs this particular page, this particular color button to be a little bit lighter. So it saves you the stress of coming to all those pages to change it. You understand? You can just make it from the changes from your mother component. You understand? Now I need you to notice a technique. I did not put my mother component in my work. My mother component is just somewhere in my component set. Are you with me? My mother component is just somewhere in my component set, so I placed it there. I didn't use it in my main work. What I'm using in my main work are my child components. You understand? So that's like the basic understanding or the basic function of how components work. Now still on the line of components and how it works, let's take a little bigger. Now there's what we call button systems. Now I'm going to be using this to explain variants to you. Now there's what we call button systems. Now button systems is a very nice way to work in Figma, because as a designer let's just say I'm working on this platform, although this platform is too small. I'm working on this platform, then I feel like, okay, I can actually have the active state and the inactive state of a button, which is what you're always going to be seeing rampant, like on major websites. You're going to be seeing active states or inactive states. So for instance, now I want to design that when you hover on this button, change the color, right? That is what I want to do. When you hover on this button, change the color. When you hover on this button, change the color. When I click on this button, probably do make a different interactions. You understand? We are moving, just follow me closely. Now let's just say, since I have already done this, okay, let me just bring this into my main work so I don't just keep switching between pages and confusing you. So I'll paste it here. So now this is our main component. I can actually rename it to, from group 6 to main button component. So the moment a button is a component just like this, it gives you the option to add different variants of that component, to that particular, different variants of objects or different variants of variants or instances to that particular component. So it gives you that option. Now to do that, when I click on this, if you look at this particular option, you're going to see add variants. Follow me closely. The moment I click on add variants here, what happened? It duplicated this. Now if you look at my layers panel, you're going to see something like the default state and the variant state. The default state and the variant state. So Figma automatically created two particular states. Now this is how we start creating interactive components. So for instance, I want it to be, when I click on it, it should become when I hover on it rather, it should become an outline. What is the simplest way to do that? Change this property here. So on the rectangle, right, I'll remove the fill and then I'll add a stroke value, and that stroke value I'll just change it to probably this our color, and then I'll change the stroke value to 3, and then the text inside I'll make it this color. Now I've designed the second state that this button is going to be existing in. Are you with me? Do you understand what I'm doing up to this stage?
Yes.
Okay. So let's continue. So this is the main component. Now this is the variant, right? So now all I just have to do now to make this interactive is just to add interactions into it. So to add interactions to this, now I have to come to the prototype. When I click on the prototype, now I'm just trying to simplify this. I'm not trying to make it look so deep, so you don't just start shying away from it, because a lot of people shy away from doing these things. But I just want to simplify it for you, so I'm not just trying to tell you the entire deep things so that your mind just don't start blowing. Now all I just have to do is, if I come to prototype, of course to prototype you can click on this, drag to this, right? Or if you've properly named it, when you click on add interactions, you can now see options here. So when I click on this particular area, I don't want to click on it, I just want to hover on it. So when I hover on it, it will change. So I'll change the options. Now these are different options. Now we're going to be going through all these object options, but probably for today's class we're going to be working with on click and while hovering. So on click and while hovering is what we're going to explore in today's class. So let me just change to while hovering. So on click means if I click on it. While hovering is if I just hover my mouth on it. So while hovering, I'll change the option to while hovering. Now because this is this is inside a component set. Now a component set is a framework that houses different components inside. components and variants. So how do you know that something is a component set? When you see these blue dotted lines around it, it means that this is a component set. And Figma makes it very, very smooth and sweet to, prototype in between components. Now, when you're trying to prototype in between components, you're always going to see this particular option, change to. You understand? And it happens that you only see that option, change to, when you're prototyping in between components. Follow me closely. But when you're prototyping from frame to frame, you will never see that change to option. You understand? The only option you can be seeing is probably navigate, open overlay, swipe, but you never see change to, because change to option is only active when you're trying to prototype from component to component, and those components must exist in between the same component sets. Now I'll hit on change to, right? So usually the easiest way for me is just to click this and drag this, but this is property 1, as you can see, which is my default state. So I couldn't say from property 1 change to variant 2, and you can see it has drawn that arrow for me, right? So it means that while hovering, change to from property 1 to variant 2, and the animation should be instant, dissolve, smart animate, move in, move out, push, blah blah blah. So these are animations that are available to you. These are very self-explanatory. So if you want to move in, you know how something moves in. If you want to move out, you know how something moves out, right? If you want to push in, you know how it pushes, slide in, slide out. You understand? But smart animate is where there's a little bit of trick behind it. So we're going to be using a lot of smart animate options, because I'll be using it to explain different kinds of animation techniques in Figma, to you. But basically, how smart animate works is it tries to add like a little bit of animation to what you're doing. How does Figma know what to add animation to? It knows what to add animation if your layer naming is the same. Now, if you're animating from frame to frame, you need to make sure that and you want like to see some kind of animation going in between those objects or those components, you need to make sure that in your layers panel, that the name that you use in naming one component is the same name that you use in naming another component or another object on a frame. You understand? The same name you named an object on a frame is the same name you're going to name it on another object on a frame. So when you apply smart animate in that frame, what Figma looks for is which objects have the same name on this particular frame, and that is what it's going to use to make a movement. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It's fast.
But do you get what I'm saying?
Not fully.
Yeah?
Not fully.
Basically, what I mean is smart animate, how smart animate works, because smart animate is used for trying to do a little bit more complex animations. I will show you how. Now, but how it works is the layer naming. It works with layer naming. So if you want smart animate to animate B, and then when you use smart animate, Figma will now know that you want to animate objects.
When you say animate, what do you mean by animate?
Animate is interaction. Now when I talk about oh god, okay, let me just show you what I mean. So in this smart animate now, when I click on smart animate now, these are like basic interactions that can happen. Do you understand? Just movements across your wall. You understand? Interactions is basically movements on your workspace, right? That's what it basically is. Now, these are different ways that things can move. So you can move linear. Linear means from point A to B. Is in, is out, is in and is out. Gentle. So let me click on this gentle now, so you see how it works. You see how this movement is. Now let's try quick. It makes it faster. Now let's try bouncy. It just tries to bounce it. So when it's moving, it just shows this bouncing thing. I don't know if you've seen those kind of animations. So something just moves in and then it bounces, and then if you check slow, it just moves in slow. Then we equally have custom, which we are going to look up in subsequent classes. But custom is used to create like this kind of bouncy kind of effect. You can create, instead of choosing between linear, you can just come here and try to mess around with things just as you want. So you could go up and down, bam bam bam, you know. That's just what it means. But let's just stick to the simpler one and understand simple concepts. So but what I want to do is, if I hover on this, just change to this particular guy, which is the variant here, and then let's just say if I take it back, if I take this arrow back, it simply means that then if I can change it to probably like mouse leave, or I don't even need to change it to mouse leave, because while hovering means it's only when a mouse is on top of it, you know. So when I think if I don't take it this, if I don't connect it back here, yeah, I think if I don't connect it back, once I let go of my mouse, you know, it's going to go back to this particular state. So now this thing we've done there, now let's see how this works. Now this is just basic prototyping. We didn't do anything complex. I just connected this to this because they're in the same interactive components. Now let's come back to the UI. Now after you must have done this, the next thing you can do is, if you come to your assets panel, you're going to see this, your button, and of course you can duplicate and place it wherever you want to place it, right? But I think I already have it on my frame, which is this. I already placed it on my frame. Maybe I should just delete it and drop it again, so you just see. So I drag from my assets and I'll just place it in that exact position that I want. You understand? Then if I click on this page and then I click on this play button that is here, that's this present button that is here, I can use it to play my prototypes. So when I click on it, my prototype is just going to load in a new tab, and then when it loads, we can see what we've done so far. Do you have any questions so far based on what I've shown you? No questions. All right, so let me share my prototype. So you can actually see, you can see your designs now, right?
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, so this is a place we've this button is where we've added interaction, and we added while hovering change to a variant state. So when I hover on this mouse by placing my mouse, you see what happens there? It changes. When I let go, it returns back to original. When I come over it again, it changes. When I let go, it comes back to the original. Do you get the basic idea?
Yeah.
Now you might as well ask yourself or say something like, oh wow, so is that what we just did? So why can't I just, you know, do this from frame to frame? Like, I mean, you know, I can equally do this from frame to frame, right? Yes, you can, which was the old method of doing it. But imagine, just because I want to animate this button, just because I want to show an interaction in this button, I have to come and duplicate this page. You understand? I have to come and duplicate this page like this, you know, and then connect this from this, connect this button from this to this, so that maybe in this other one I'll just change the state from default to variant. So then I'll now connect that. If I'm on this button now, if I hover on it, change to this particular state. Now it's going to change because every single thing is the same, so you might not even notice that something has happened. Do you understand? But imagine if you're trying to make an interactive work, imagine how many frames you're going to have, you know, just trying to create those interactions. So that is why interactive components makes it easier, because it tries to reduce the number of frames you create on your workspace. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Now if you do, let me show you one more thing before we continue. So I want to create a toggle icon, right? And I want the toggle icon to be interactive. With what I've explained to you now, do you know how you can actually create a toggle icon and make it interactive? Huh?
What's the toggle icon?
Okay, so let's just do that. Let's just create that. Off state. Let's just say it's not on now. So I have something like this. Probably this will be here. Probably need to give it an outline. Probably white. Also, make it two. So I have this icon just like this. Then maybe we want to create something a button that will help us toggle between light mode and dark mode, right? So I could just switch up this. Maybe I could just delete this and just work with only this. I could duplicate this and then just make it smaller. Then make this color a little bit. Let's just leave it like this. So now let's just say this is what we have. So with our components idea, so what I can just do is I could just select all of this and I could make a component out of it, right? Now it's component one. You understand? I'm going to explain something to you shortly, but just follow me closely. Now we want to make this component interactive, so I'll just add interactive. I'll just add a variant to it, right? I didn't do any other thing, I just added a variant. So what I will now do is on this particular guy, I'll just change the position of this guy to this space. I'll change the position of this guy to this space. Now this guy was there, so probably here I'll just probably adjust the color to now show that it's active, right? I don't know why I'm using this kind of colors. Yeah, let's come down to something stronger. So now this instance, so this time around when I click on this particular element, it should change to this other element, right? Then milliseconds, where 1000 milliseconds is equal to 1 second. So with that you can now know, okay, do you want it to be 1 second late? 1 second is like a big time. A lot of things can happen in 1 second, right? So you can always use numbers between 300 to 500 milliseconds depending on what you're trying to do. That one is just dependent on you too. So let's just see what we've designed here. So I'll just drag this out and I'll place it on our page. So I'll just place it somewhere there. Then I'll come to my prototype and then just see what we've done there. So I'll share my prototype page for you. You can see the prototype page, right? You can see the prototype page. Can you see the prototype page?
Yeah, I can see.
So when I click on this particular button now, see what happens when I click it, because I set on click change the state. If I click on this, see what happens of this work. So probably let's assume that this is light mode. I don't know how to change your background, but let me just try and see if I can just change the background from this to probably white. Man, you have a lot of shadows working here, but let's just walk around. Okay, no, it won't work. So, but basically, this is a toggle button. I'm sure you must have seen something like this on your device, right? You've seen some, yeah. So we can use it to determine switch between light modes and dark modes, turn on a feature or off, where you can see the animation, just the way it's going. So this is how we try to create interactive stuffs on Figma. So I didn't have to do this in a frame. Like a frame, I will determine the first state. Then the second frame, I will now determine the second frame. I just did everything inside the component set, and it's all working out. I'm just going to add a model. What's the size of this your frame? Which desktop size are you using?
I actually tweaked it. It doesn't. It's not what is there.
You actually did what?
This is the one I said.
Eh?
Wait, hold on. Let me show you. This is the one I finished.
Where are you showing me
But
this
then
stuff?
I adjusted.
Where are you showing me? Desktop one. You adjusted what?
But then I adjusted the width and the height. I think
Okay, oh, that's fine. So you can just continue. So, but you understand this concept that I've explained to you now, right?
yeah, but I would like to run through it again. So let's say for instance, this is my own stuff I want to do. So now you said if I have to create a component before I do a variant, right?
Yes.
Now this is a variant. This is the main button.
Yes.
I want to make a um this is like
Yes.
directory.
So you have to be able to change the colors or change the state so we know. So Figma.
Let me change it. Is it that it can't make any changes after I've turned it to a variant?
You can just double click on it to select
Okay.
it.
Sorry?
Yeah, I said you can. I think you've changed it, so you change the color.
Enable interactive component. Okay. Is this not is it this tick sign, is it on a default? Like I don't have to tick it. It's just there like that.
Which tick sign?
Yeah, enable interactive components. So it's already enabled.
Yeah, leave it enabled now so that your interactions will show.
Okay. I'm not seeing the other options I saw before.
Where are you selected on? Are you looking at my work? Are you looking at my space? Are you looking at my screen?
Yeah.
No, don't look at my screen. My screen is. I'm not. I'm just watching what you're doing. So you need to be doing what you're doing. I'm off. Like I'm not
No,
select.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, click on that thing so that your properties will show. You're not selecting anything.
Okay.
So after you've created it in this component set just like this, and you determine the second property of the variant, then you go to your prototype and then add your interactions, your links. Choose which of the interaction, whether clicking or hovering, and that's all.
Your background is noisy. I can't really hear you clearly.
Just add interactions to it.
What
Have you had any interaction?
is he here? Huh?
You know, I can't really see your screen. I can't really see. I just see that your mouse is moving, but I'm not really seeing what exactly you're doing.
Okay, when I click on the button
Yeah.
going to the prototype, I'm trying to like find the option where I can start adding all of those
When you
interaction.
click on your button, are you seeing something like a node point around that button that you clicked on?
A node for yeah.
Now click on that node point and link it to the second one. Then a panel will pop up where you can now track your settings from hover to click or then all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, go to app. Okay, so you can play it to now see how it's working. So as you can see, once I just click on this, it just changes to the orange color.
Well, are you already doing it?
But you can do yours. I just tested it
How
to
did
make
this
it.
get here? Are you the one that placed it here now? Can you see
Yeah,
my screen?
yeah. You know, I'm on the same file with you, so I can actually control every single thing you're doing. So I just placed it there and checked if it's working. So you can place yours and see if it's working. I've deleted it already.
Yeah.
Have you clicked on it?
Yeah.
Is it
Need it.
working? Is it working?
Yeah, it turns to
So,
orange.
so, but
But
what's
how can you go back? It's not going back.
that's what I'm asking you now. So, if you wanted to go back now, what will you do? Huh?
Um,
If you wanted to go back
okay.
now, what will you do?
That same node point, you hover it back to the other one. Is that it?
Exactly. So, do it and know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
Have you done it? Yes. So it's
Yeah.
working now. So I can see it from here. It's working now. So basically, that's how you create like basic animations, right? Basic interactive animations. So now, within the little time we still have, let's jump into.
Your voice is breaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I'm just going to delete all the stuff that I created here. So I just deleted every single thing. I'm just going to leave your own, you know. Now, that's how you create basic interactions. Now let's jump into how these things actually work. Like, because from there we can be able to create our button systems. Now, this is like introduction to design. Layer style guide. In your layer style guide, you're going to have your typography system, your color systems, you know, and then of course in your design system you're equally going to have your component systems. Your component system is what we just tried out now, you understand. But let me now show you how you can. Let me just was created. You understand? Because we're not going to create like an entire button system, but I'm going to find some. I used to have I used to have like one nice button system I normally use. Only button you ever need. Alright, so let me just take this. Alright, let's just take this. So it's going to open up shortly, then I'll show you. Okay. So I'm taking this button system from the community, right? So these are different button sets. I used to have like one that I like, but I searched for it and then I didn't find it, so I found. So I'm duplicating from the community, right? So all I just did was I searched button in the community. So under the file section, I'm duplicating a file because it's a file. I don't want to have a plugin that generates buttons for me. I don't know if there is any plugin like that, but I wouldn't like that. Well, it's nice. I mean, I could imagine it's making your work faster though, but I just want that. So buttons now. So I'll come to the button sections, icons, components. Ouch! I don't like this. It's not comprehensive. It's not what I want. Okay, I need to show you something like that, so that you will have an idea of button system. That one that probably looks like I got first is nice, but just on I think it's not comprehensive enough. So share this tab. So if you take a good look at this, that is on my screen now, you understand. Now this is what I call a button system. Now this is what is called a button system. As you can see, every single item here is inside a component set, right? I seen what's going on here. I see what's going on my screen. I see my screen.
Yeah.
Alright, so now normally depending on your in-depth understanding of buttons and how it works, you can have at least from 64 to 128 buttons that you're going to be working with in your work, depending on what you're doing, and how you like to work, right? Now, how did they create this button?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you want to say anything?
What did you say? I couldn't hear the last thing you said.
I said
You
in
said
a standard
from
project.
64. I didn't
In a
get
standard project, you understand, you could
Okay.
have like 64 up to 128 buttons that you're going to be working with, right? It just depends on what you're doing and how you're working, right? So because buttons are like the key interaction objects that you have on your work that the users use to interact with your designs. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you can probably hear now, you could see like 32 buttons. So now the idea of button systems is you just being able to create a system of buttons that will have almost all the kind of button that you're going to use. So here now you can see that this button is in, I could say that this is primary state, that's the primary color, the green is the secondary color, while this is the disabled color, right? You know, then you can see that okay, this is not primary state. This is like because since I have an outline here, an outline button, I could say this is the main color, this is this probably accent color, then this is the disabled button. So but this particular button with fill, I could consider it as a primary button. Now this one without the fill, that's this outline, now I could say is the secondary button. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now these are primary buttons with icons. Now these are secondary buttons without icons. Do you understand? Now these are primary buttons with icons on the right. These are secondary buttons with icons on the right. So these ones icons are on the left, while these ones are on the right. So depending on what you want to show or what you're trying to show, you understand, it will make it, it's going to determine how you're going to. I can switch to any of these buttons I want on my file. Do you understand? So say for instance, now I am working on something and I want to use probably the outline button, right? I could just come here and say variant, probably change the variant to outline, right? And I've changed it to outline. Now I want to choose a color, probably I want to work with green, I just change it to green. So I don't need to be creating buttons, I just use one button to control every single button. So I have like 164 buttons or 32 buttons or 64 buttons inside one button. Do you understand? Do you get the idea? Do you get the concept? Yeah, so I'm not creating new buttons. I've just determined all those buttons, the different state that this button is going to be existing, and they are all inside my component set. Then from there, I'm now using one button to switch to anyone that I want. You understand? So that's the idea of creating a button system. So now what does design
So
systems?
you would have created all of this.
You would have created it all of this. You would have created all of this before starting your work, right? That's what you want to say.
You said?
You said, ask your question, let me hear
You said you don't need to create all of these buttons because you said you don't need to create all of these buttons because all of them are inside that particular main button, right? But all of those buttons can't just be in existence without you creating them.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Can you
what I'm
hear me?
saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I can hear you.
You mean to make the changes?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
To make the changes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You must have created it in your system, right? And then define what they are in your system, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Do you understand? So you must have see what it is that probably before
Yeah.
you start doing your designs, you must have created your systems like this. Do you understand? Now, but the very good thing about this is if I take my time and I create a very comprehensive button system that I'm going to be using, I just need to do it once and I can just copy it and jump on any project I want to jump on. You get the idea now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but before you start your work, yeah, you might want to just take your time to develop your buttons. You want to take your time to develop your buttons and build your systems. Now, most times, people used to fall back at, man, okay, developing these buttons is just hectic and all of those and that kind of thing. But usually I like I don't know if I'm to say how I do my own work. How I do my own work is like I try to do them together. So as I'm working, I'm developing my systems. Do you understand? As I'm developing my system. So if I know that okay, for the next few things I'm going to be doing, you understand, I will need to have developed probably the secondary, outline, primary buttons. I'll just go ahead and do that so that it will give me a smooth work across my frames. You understand? So but you just need to understand the basic idea so you can now know how to go about it. So I haven't shown you all of this. Now let me show you the basic ideology that this was developed. So I'll come back to our work here. So now let's try to create our button systems. So now, first of all, for today's class, I'm going to be building buttons, primary, secondary, and then disabled button. So now, follow me closely. I have one button here. And let's just say this is going to be my primary button, so I'll make it blue. Just choose any blue color of your choice. Make it blue. Then I'll usually curve the edges just like this. Then I could just name it button. Now, of course, this button you're naming it, you can always change it to any of your text. Just that probably at the time we were creating this button, probably we did not know the name of the text we're going to be putting there, whether signing or whatever thing. Now, and some people go as far as that button I even showed you was not comprehensive. Some people go as far as, after creating primary outline and secondary buttons for small buttons, they will still have inside that same component for big buttons. So maybe this, I'll make it a little bit bigger. I don't know if you understand.
Okay.
So I'll be working for small and big. Now anything I do for small, I'll do it for big. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll just change this, but I don't want to have two stuffs here. I just want to have one. Then from that one, we'll now build out every single thing that we want to do. So I'll just align this, centralize it. So what I'll do is I'll select this and I'll make a component out of it, and then of course I'll add a variant. Now when you click on this component outline, that's this dotted outlines here, right? I can just make it bigger, because you can make it as big as you want, because we're going to be putting in stuff here. So it's now left for you to now determine first, right? So this will be primary. Then I'm just going to click on this and change the property, right? So now, but here's where the main work comes in. When you click on this button now, follow me closely. When you take a look at this, your design is basically in with properties, as you can see. So when I talk about properties, I'm referring to the states. So this is property 1, and property 1 is this particular thing. Now, which state is property 1 existing? Is existing in default and is existing in variant. Now this property 1, I can actually choose to rename it. So currently now, I'll just... Can you hear me? Now the very good thing about this is that I can rename this property 1. So if I double click on it now, I can name it to become primary buttons. So any designer working on this particular file will know that, okay, any button with this color now is a primary button.
The voice is breaking badly. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Hello?
I said, can you hear me
Your
now?
voice is breaking badly. I can hear you now. So you said you're going to name the main button as property 1. The second one is variant 2, right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. That's perfect.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Come to this particular place now. You name it as... Oh, sorry. Let's just start this thing from afresh. Let me show you something.
Wait, let me... Yeah. Like on the layer panel, the one with the diamond, the buttons with the diamond.
Yes.
There's an S to the button.
Yes. On this one, I think there's no S in this one.
I don't know, you edited it, but if you edited it, it should also affect this one now.
I
The
did
one with the
not.
buttons
I
on.
did not. I did not edit it. What I did was I changed the name of this layer. It's the layer that I changed to buttons. It could be login. I just renamed it. I just renamed the button.